Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the LightWork software team to review effective leadership and performance management. My name is Morgan Lacey, and I spend my days connecting with HR professionals to review their performance management process. I've learned a lot over the years, so you can find me here every month discussing best practices in performance management and other workplace themes. On our agenda for today, we're going to talk about being mindful of bias, promoting focus and accountability, and avoiding micromanagement in the workplace. Now, we have a wonderful and diverse group joining us here today, so I do try to keep things general and essential as we have different industries and roles attending. With that being said, please feel free to reach out to me through our post-webinar email to talk more specifically about your team's needs and requirements. I am always happy to connect and collaborate on those things. Effective leadership is such a crucial part of a business's success and growth. And I could have very easily listed communication, engagement, and support on this slide, and those would all be valid in reference to someone being an effective leader. And if you go back to our past presentations, you'll find that I've highlighted those leadership basics. And as important as I think those things are in effective leadership, what I wanted to share was a few quotes that I think say a lot about leadership just in a simple sentence. So I want to start with the quote from President Abraham Lincoln about testing a man's character by giving them power. Now, I think the majority of us have worked under someone who struggled to handle the power that leading people gave them. Now, I've watched firsthand in a past job the result of that, and what it gave us was a concerning amount of turnover. And more than anything, I look back at the people who put my coworker in a position to lead when they were not ready, and I wish that they would have prepared them more. Was that person smart and hardworking? Absolutely. They hit and surpassed every goal put in front of them. But being a leader is more than numbers, and that person struggled to provide fair and consistent leadership, which I know isn't always easy, but it's important. The perspective that U.S. Navy Admiral Grace Murray provides with the statement, "You manage things, you lead people," is so simple but so important. And I truly think that statement should be hung in every office as a reminder to busy leaders that employees are in fact people and not things. I know being an effective leader is a balancing act no matter the industry or company size. There are so many things to, prioritize as far as needs and responsibilities. Now, U.S. General Norman, and I'm not going to try to say the last name and butcher it, said it perfectly that leadership is a combination of strategy and character. But what I want to note in that sentence is it finishes with stating that if you must be without strategy or character, that you should be without strategy. So I want to start today's presentation off with a few reminders that leadership is more than numbers and meetings. Effective leadership is about strategy and character and how those things help us lead others. Let's talk about the essentials of how leaders can effectively promote focus and accountability in the workplace. Communication, obviously, being the framework of the few things that I have listed here, but these things are something that anyone who is actively leading anyone in their life, personally or professionally, should keep in mind. The top of the list, we have alignment, and honestly, I think that gets missed a lot. Leaders are in their role for their ability to problem solve and innovate. But when those kind of action plans get mixed together with their busy schedule, it can kind of create a gap in information for the rest of their team. I know it's not always easy to slow down to ensure that everyone is in alignment of what their role is, especially in a time of frustration and stress. But missing the step to align everyone can unfortunately cause more frustration and stress for everyone down the road. So let's talk about the ways that leadership can provide focus by providing alignment. Different industries and different roles require different goals to be set for each employee or each department. But what does stay the same, no matter the company or the employee, is adding details to goals to provide employees with the information that they need to not only manage their own time and effort effectively, but to also align employees with the overall vision and result that the company is looking to achieve. It truly is a leader's job to align their team's efforts and ensure that their employees know their roles and responsibilities. But another part of being an effective leader is actively engaging and promoting collaboration. And when I say engaging in collaboration, I mean that leaders should be setting an example of how you professionally and productively collaborate with other team members. If you want to promote focus and accountability in your workplace, then it has to start with those who are at the top by leading by example. Effective leadership is a commitment to being consistent and accountable for a team of people who depend on their leader to guide and advocate for them. The commitment that leaders show to their team will reflect in their team's commitment to meeting and exceeding expectations. Performance management is a great tool to align, collaborate, and engage employees in their own success, but it starts with leaders utilizing performance management as a way to support and guide employees instead of a tool to just rate and review them. Now, I want to note, though, I do think performance management is a great tool to identify strengths and areas of weakness within your workforce. But with rating and reviewing employees, leaders can struggle with bias, which can leave companies without accurate results from the performance management process. Something that I recommend to any company that has managers participating in the performance management process is educating them on the different types of bias that they can unconsciously fall into when rating their employees. Things like the recency bias, which is when someone is only able to remember what recently happened with the employee when rating their entire year's worth of performance. So, knowing about the different types of bias and acknowledging where, as a leader, you need to be aware of the different dynamics that bring those biases into play. Another way for leaders to be mindful of avoiding bias is gathering and documenting details about their team throughout the year. Collecting and documenting employee performance really is the framework to effective performance management. And as an employee, I know that I appreciate my manager taking my performance details, my whole year's worth of performance details, into consideration when rating and reviewing my performance. There's a bias that people refer to as halo horn, kind of like angel devil, meaning that when leaders are reviewing an employee's performance, they allow a good or bad trait of that employee to overshadow their entire performance review. So having details of an employee's performance, highlighting the achievements and the struggles throughout the review cycle, can be what allows employees to have accurate results from the performance management process. Leaders can struggle to be effective when bias gets in the way. Educating and acknowledging are the first steps to avoiding it. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the different types of bias and some tips that you can pass on to, kind of managers and leaders for avoiding them when rating performance, you can actually find our past presentation on our YouTube channel. It is titled Avoiding Errors in Performance Management. And I talk about tips for managers, kind of a kind of big group of the different bias. So if you're interested, you should definitely check that out. Being micromanaged can be very frustrating. When a leader has an excessive need to control, it can ruin the dynamic between them and all of their direct reports very quickly. I'm sure there are people here today that have worked under someone who micromanaged them to the point where they're saying to themselves, or maybe even out loud, "You hired me to do my job, now let me do it." Being micromanaged can leave employees feeling left defeated and wondering if they're in the right job. I know that as a leader, it can be difficult to delegate the responsibilities that have been given to your department and fear that things might not be done correctly and then will fall apart quickly, and then that leaves you with even more to accomplish and clean up. But going into a project or a process with that mindset can make it easy for leaders to fall into the micromanaging mindset. Instead, leaders should focus on setting and communicating clear expectations by setting goals with details that gives employees the information they need to manage their own time and effort, including things like due date, priority, and status when setting goals with employees can provide them with the details that they need to, it could be make their own schedule. It could be even look at part of the process and decide really what is best for them and where their efforts are best spent. Now, working to provide an environment where people have, a space to ask questions and work through their setbacks is really important in the workplace. So, utilizing performance management as a tool to allow employees to request additional support, resources, or even guidance is a great way to provide an environment where employees can learn and grow. Giving employees a way to formally advocate for their success can actually allow them to assist leaders in creating a more efficient and productive workplace. Showing employees that their leaders have the trust and confidence in them to do their job can be as simple as acknowledging their problem-solving skills or accomplished goals. There is a balance to management, and it's not always as simple as just taking a step back from a department or a project. Now, there is a place and a time for trial and error, but really it's about turning control into collaboration in an effort to be successful and productive. Part of being an effective leader is laying the groundwork for your company to have a successful performance management process. Below, I have the essentials of creating that groundwork. I know it seems obvious to add vision to this list, but I talk to a lot of leaders that admit that they never talk to their team about their company's vision, and I get it. Sometimes people are onboarded quickly and projects have taken on immediately, but ensuring that ensuring that the employees know that the company's vision is a great way to promote focus and commitment. So let's take that a step further and talk about sharing the vision of the performance management process with the team. What is the vision, value, and direction of your team's performance management process? And if the answer to that question is to give employees a number on a piece of paper that correlates with a score that puts them in a category, then I would suggest you rethink why you're administering the performance management process. And I only say that to say that as a leader, you can't expect employees to embrace the performance management process if it's just a tool to rate them. Now, if your vision is to engage performance management process to, support employees' professional growth, gather feedback to improve culture, and in an effort to retain and grow as a company, that's something that you should share with your employees. A team with a performance management process with no direction or vision is going to struggle to find value in the process or the results. Being an effective leader when it comes to performance management means communicating and laying the groundwork for what the process means for your team. It provides focus and promotes commitment to the process. Okay. Again, I know what I have listed here are the basics, but I would argue that most leaders are struggling to do these three things in the performance management process currently. Effective leaders look for ways to engage and empower their employees professionally. Performance management can be a great tool to communicate and collaborate with employees throughout their career. I reviewed in the past presentations the benefits of new hire surveys, and I've seen firsthand the power of giving new hires the ability to formally communicate and request their concerns as they start a new role. Empowering new employees in their role is part of being an effective leader, but it isn't always easy and straightforward. Every person needs something different when learning and growing professionally, and that goes for the new hire of 2 weeks and for the long-term employee of 12 years. Giving employees the opportunity to communicate and advocate for themselves in the workplace can have a major impact on things like commitment and productivity. Using performance management as a tool to gather and document employees' feedback is a great way to support and advocate for your employees' success. If you show your employees that when they share their concerns and requests, that they're met with acknowledgement and as much action as possible, you're promoting a culture of communication and growth. Performance management for so many years has just been getting through the annual review so HR stops emailing you. And if leaders are just trying to get through it, then what can you expect from their team? Measuring employee performance is important. It provides insight for leaders. But I would argue that those measurements aren't very accurate if there's no communication or collaboration prior to those ratings being provided. Effective leaders drive effective performance management. Effective leaders also communicate and engage their employees about their performance throughout the year. So providing managers with the tools to document those details is an investment in them as a leader. I mentioned before that part of being an effective leader is helping your employees grow professionally. So utilizing performance management to gather insight into things like skill gaps can give leaders what they need to help guide their employees and even their departments. One of the most important parts of performance management is providing feedback to employees. But how that feedback is provided can make or break how it's received. Things like tone and location should always be considered when providing feedback about an employee's performance. Coaching and providing feedback in public can quickly tarnish the dynamic between leaders and their employees. And I know it's not always easy, especially in times of stress, to keep things, forward-focused feedback and keep it professional, but it's crucial as leaders to keep employees focused on what they can do to improve and problem solve. Growing employees professionally isn't always easy and straightforward. Things like succession planning are a great way to advocate for your company's success and growth. Utilizing performance management as a tool to identify a critical position within your workforce and then developing action plans or goals for employees to take on those positions successfully is a great way to set up any size team or department for success. Being able to identify what employees have what skills and their potential to grow in their role or department is great insight for a quickly growing workforce. Leadership and performance management can be a great combination when the process is focused on growth and support. Things like weekly one-on-ones or collaborating quarterly on goals can start a foundation for a successful annual review. Everyone's performance management process looks different by industry or even by role. So it's important to collaborate with your team to determine what do you want from the results of the performance management process? What questions do you want answered about your workforce when the process is finished? Because determining that will help you gather the right content and questions to include on the performance reviews. Being strategic and intentional about performance management is what allows employees and companies to grow. With that being said, in my past presentations, I have reviewed the importance and the benefits of setting goals, but today I want to talk high level about the science behind setting goals because the truth is setting goals is easy. Achieving them is what can be challenging. So let's start off by talking about executive function. This refers to a person's set of mental skills, including things like flexible thinking, working memory, and self-control. When it comes to goal setting, executive functions help individuals define their objectives clearly, break them down into manageable steps, prioritize tasks, and stay focused on achieving their desired outcomes. In particular, executive functions such as working memory allow individuals to hold information in mind while working towards their goals, while cognitive flexibility enables them to adapt to changes and setbacks along the way. Additionally, inhibitory control helps individuals resist distractions and impulses that may hinder progress towards their goals. By utilizing these executive functions effectively, individuals can enhance their goal setting abilities, increase their motivation, and improve their chances of success in various aspects of life. So, now let's talk about the will and the way when goal setting. The will and the way are concepts that have been explored in various fields, including psychology, physiology, and even self-help literature. The will typically refers to the mental faculty by which a person decides on an innate action. It's often associated with determination, self-discipline, and the ability to make choices. In contrast, the way often refers to the path or method one takes to achieve goals or desired outcomes. It involves strategies, plans, and actions that lead to success. In the context of personal development, having a strong will can help individuals stay focused and motivated to pursue their goals. While finding the right way involves identifying effective strategies and approaches to outcomes and obstacles, and that is really what is going to allow them to reach their desired outcome. The science of the will and the way can involve understanding the human motivation, behavior change, and goal-setting techniques and cognitive strategies to optimize performance and achieve success. By combining the power of the will with the right way of doing things, individuals can enhance their ability to accomplish goals. All right, we have talked about effective leadership and performance management a lot today. A lot about setting goals, a lot about engaging employees. So I just want to talk about a few of the tools in performance management that I think that can allow leaders to be more effective in that process. The first is surveys. I did mention briefly the new hire surveys. I do recommend them 30, 60, 90 to reach out to new employees, whether they're hybrid, remote, or in office, to make sure they're feeling comfortable, that they don't have any questions, any requests. I would also say they're wonderful for long-term employees, as well as some people do use them kind of as exit interviews when things like that happen. The second would be performance reviews. I talked a lot today about, kind of the shift that we're starting to see in performance management, and that is it being less about numbers and more about a way to empower and support employees, through that process and throughout their career. And then last, we have goals. I obviously have talked about goals, I think maybe since their first or second slide here today, but I do believe that they're a big part of the performance management process being effective. They're the groundwork. They're what gives you the information and the insight into what your employees are struggling with and where they have their strengths. With that being said, if you have an interest in performance management software, LightWork Performance Management gives employees and their managers the ability to easily access and participate in the performance management process. If you'd like to learn more about LightWork Performance, please feel free to reach out to us. That being said, thank you so much for joining us. We're here every single month talking about best practices in performance management. Feel free to reach out to us and let us know if you want to, there's something specific that you would like to learn, whether it's succession planning or other leadership topics. Please let us know. We're always interested. Subscribe to our YouTube channel here. If you'd like to know more about our integrations with Sage and Acumatica, please feel free to reach out. With that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day. Thanks for joining us.